Okay, so we're gonna kick this off, and I guess we're gonna get our timer going here. We're gonna stick to 15 minutes. Two amazing minds on stage talking about like a mouthful, right? Rational. I love this. Revolutionary enterprise AI. I like the rational and the revolution. So we could go for R squared. So I'm Lisa Wardlaw, everyone. Very excited to be here today and honored to be joined by Tom Wilde. And Tom, you've been on stage quite a few times today, so I guess does everybody know you?
I think so at this point, yeah.
Everybody good with Tom? And Gary, you've been on stage a few times too, right?
Yep.
So I'm the like newcomer to the stage, right? Okay. Well, we're very excited to be here. So what we really want to do is get beyond the hype and talk about how AI can be used safely and securely at a large scale within organizations, which requires that wonderful use of the word enterprise. So let's get right into it. Tom, I've heard you talk. I don't know if you've talked about it already today. I hope you didn't steal our thunder about the 3 S's. Have you?
I have not. I have not.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
No, I was holding.
I was catching my flight here, and when I was like, if he does that, we're going to get... No. So you honestly talk a lot, which I really applaud. Safe, secure, scalable. And those things are, a difficult triangle to assemble. How do you think about that with designing AI to achieve all 3 of those?
Yeah, I think that we kind of infuse that in any solution we bring to the customer. I think that the big challenge right now is that we're again at the peak of expectations, right? If you kind of roll back 5 or 6 years ago, you saw a lot of VPs of AI in big enterprises, and that kind of went away, and now it's back again, right? And so the challenge is you've got lots of people able to build even faster now than ever before, very compelling prototypes, but the prototype, and it turns out that the AI now is actually not the hard part. That's become the easy part. Ironically, 5, 6 years ago, it was the hard part. Now it's the easy part. The hard part is the safe, secure, scalable, because the enterprise is under ever more pressure from regulation, compliance, hacking. So that has to be built in by design, or you really can't roll it out very widely.
Yeah, and you just made me think of something too. Like, I think before we were all trying to figure out how or what these things were going to be, and we were really point solutioning things. And Gary, I want to get your point on this, right? And especially coming from your background, right? Because I'm going to go to you to layer on in addition to this, but like, for me, scalability, like I always started with scalability in mind. I think I was kind of like definitely like the odd man out on that. But how are our muscles when it comes to scalability? Then I want to ask you to layer onto this, but I want to start there.
Yes, I remember when I joined MetLife as global CIO, we did an inventory. We had 412 admin systems.
Is that all?
That's all. And so like part of this AI journey has got to be like no one's used the L word today, which is legacy. Like the legacy every company has built up over the years is very little greenfield. And so 80% of my budget was keeping the lights on, the existing legacy that I blamed for the CIOs before me, for the 150 years before me. And like you have to address that in a way which enables it to participate in the environment. So we have one very large insurer that's currently piloting moving all the COBOL to Unqork, so shut down the mainframe, and we scared the hell out of IBM when I said that once. We did that at reInvent, right? One time, just bang, that's it. And so we have another insurance company that's looking at moving all Java to Unqork. And like you have to be able to address this in a way which it's going to bite you if you don't.
Yeah.
And that's where I like the safe, secure. I like that the analogy. It's you have to address it. The scalable piece to me, the legacy is not scalable. I used to spend, for those who think being a C-suite exec is exciting, every Friday 2 hours I'd spend talking about all the outages for the previous week, talking about all the changes that were going to break us over the weekend, like that were coming. And that was the life that I lived, and it was miserable.
So we've never had this conversation, Gary, ever. But my claim to fame / how quickly you can lose your job was retiring a Cobalt mainframe at one of the largest reinsurers in the world. I did it. Yay.
You did it.
But to your point, it was not glamorous. Yeah.
No.
But anyway, so let's layer on beyond the 3 S's. Mm-hmm. Gary, you often talk about additional principles.
Yep.
And a lot of people I think talk about like traceability. So what are the additional principles that you would put on top of the triangle?
I think we definitely hit traceability a lot today, so I'm not going to go back to that. But the flexibility piece is, I remember like the first API we tried to integrate with was like, it was a medical API to get back all your medical records so that long-term care and short-term care, we could basically estimate it very quickly. It was like $5 million to build the API integration.
Wait, just pause there.
Yes.
Because as a CIO and when you're doing data, a lot of people say the APIs are 100,000 each, right?
Oh, gosh.
An integration will cost you, anybody heard that estimate? 100,000 per integration?
Yes.
$5 million later.
$5 million.
Go on.
And so like to us, like you should be able to snap in and out any model. And you will find what, Indico, your specialty and where you play to be able to bring you in on the fly for that type of document. And there are going to be other specialists that we work with that are really good at like W-2s and 1099 forms. And like everyone's going to tune, and you want to be able to snap in and out the models that are appropriate at the point in time you need it, which is flexibility. So the one that I always look for is like, you can't be attached to anything. How many people have evangelists in their company that is so passionate about their technology they brought in, they're holding on to it as if it's their baby? Like that's like we see, if I could wave a magic wand and make them all disappear, like it would be a better life, because you have to move past the legacy and what's there. And there's a friend of mine always said, take the history, take the legacy, throw it down, and run over it with a truck, and celebrate it, but run over it with a truck. You need to be able to do that.
I see that with modern.
You say that with modern?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I'm going to die on this, whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, but
yes.
something else that just came out that's better, right?
That's exactly right.
And I think that's interesting now, Tom. So let's go with the generative AI, because like, what would a session be if we didn't cover generative AI, right? Okay, and we're not going to go into the definition of that. Hopefully, everyone's there by now. How can carriers actually use generative AI to make existing workflows and processes more efficient? And I'll go a little bit beyond, because like, I agree with efficiency and optimization of efficiency, but I mean, I've got a CFO background, so I really want to maximize the balance sheet, right? Like I'm also like capital. How do people think about, how would you apply Gen AI today in a efficient framework?
Yeah, I think metaphors always work well. So, I talked earlier about how prompting is sort of the new software programming. Well, large language models are really like the new operating system. So if you treat them that way, think about them that way, then you can apply existing design principles to be successful in harnessing these innovations, and they're going to come faster and faster. The problem right now is we've if it was possible, we went from a rapid innovation cycle to a hyper rapid innovation cycle now. And so if you're an insurer and you still have some COBOL mainframes, well, the market is evolving much faster than you can take advantage of. So you need to start to separate these layers, right? So if the LLMs are an operating system and there's going to be more of them and they're going to get smarter and better, that's fine. So let's abstract that so we can make sure we can switch those out as they get better over time. So don't build anything that's sort of monolithic that says it has to be, Gemini 3.5 or something like that. So that's one abstraction. Then you have sort of your scaffold for how you're going to connect, your data and your context to use this operating system, and you're doing that through how you're thinking about rolling out prompting as a skill set across the enterprise. And then there's the application layer, right? So how will you create flexible applications that can take advantage of these things? So I think that it's more important than ever to abstract those key layers so that each of them can evolve at their own pace, and you're not suddenly, caught with another massive tech debt because of the way you architected it.
Yeah, which gets to your evangelical point. And it gets to this next point, which I'm been dying to ask you all about. Gary, I'm going to start with you. I fundamentally believe that we need to get out of, like, I'll call it like enterprise architecture, like from the literal perspective of the IT person, and get a new emphasis on business architecture. And I understand that's a little bit of a juxtaposition there. But I think, like, where are the business architects? To your point, everything you were just describing to me is not necessarily just a technology exercise. It's a business exercise of agnosticity, flexibility, agility, scale, like all these things that business people in my mind need to drive. And I'm not saying the technologist didn't drive it in the past, but like, how do we get there? So can you expand on that, Gary? Like, what are you seeing with, especially with the flexibility and the traceability,
Yep.
and then combining the 3 S's? Like, how are you seeing business
I
architecture?
mean, we have like one of the biggest banks in the world. They approved Unqork for all business users to create software while the IT governs the business, which is very unique. Where every app, they built 52 production apps in asset and wealth management in 1 year, 52 apps brand new 1 year without a line of code, no technical debt, no end of life, no security issues. The IT took on the role of governance, and we call it business-led IT. So business, to be honest, if you're a CIO, the business leads you because they're setting the budget, they're setting the requirements, they're doing the
It leads you
test
no matter
plans.
what.
You can't go live without their approval. They're doing the marketing. So imagine a world where they could participate in the software creation and move up the time to market. But like what I see, Lisa, is like the thing that I'm excited by is like, what is the art of the possible that opens up then? So the business architecture concept, love it. We, in MetLife, we deployed it as well when I was there, which was how do we have a team that thinks through it? I think with LLMs, as Tom's saying, like there's another new, like I would question why do we have an admin system in life insurance? Like you could, the regulator.
That was my favorite question a decade ago.
Yeah, that was, I mean, and I asked it 10 years ago, I said, can't we just store the Word documents and operate on the Word documents instead of like code it into a system? But the reality is that's true today. Today, like you could basically, the regulators keep you to say, how are you enforcing the document the customer signed? That's it. We don't care about what's in your admin system. We want to know, are you actually doing what you said you signed? If you could understand the document signed, load it in a system and query it, you don't need the admin system at that point. And it's a whole new world.
That like is a had me at hello moment.
Yes.
and I think we've all been chasing these things. We just didn't have, it's like we knew there was something better, but we were just kind of trying to make what we had better because we didn't know what we could make, because the combination of the compute, the processing, the cloud, the affordability, all this stuff wasn't quite combined. And I think of this as a great inflection point. And I love the anchor on LLMs because I've long thought that that's really what's transposing us into this new era. So let's look ahead quickly. With the next wave of adaptive AI, so let's think Horizon 2, Horizon 3. We've got a couple minutes left. What do you think is driving this change now for enterprise applications back to the kind of whole rational, revolutionary AI? Start with you.
Well, I think we are in a bit of an interim phase where these technologies are very powerful. We still need to sort of have heuristics in the middle. If you think about things like RAG, retrieval augmented generation, that's another great step in helping connect the context that we have within the enterprise to answer a particular question, like ask a document, what are you, right? What are the sort of commitments in this document? I think Horizon 2 is, skips over probably RAG because now the sort of intelligent agent will know already what pieces to go retrieve to make that decision. But we're not there right now. So that, I think, for a while it was, well, we're gonna fine tune these new models and they're gonna be smart just about our company. And that quickly became moot, right? I think Bloomberg spent $100 million building Bloomberg LLM, and then GPT-4 came out and was better than Bloomberg LLM. So it was like, okay, well, there's not much point in doing that anymore. So I think that's what you're going to see is these models probably can get somewhat bigger. I don't know that getting that much bigger is really the answer to making them smarter now. But that's an example of where that's kind of an interim to Horizon 2.
All right, Gary.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When cloud came out, like the amount of money you needed to access a cloud and build your own cloud, it was difficult. Most importantly, when it came out, the executives in the companies, they weren't able to touch and feel this. They couldn't see it. They didn't know what it was. It was cloud. It's great. It's like, this is an example where each of us has experience with the technology. It's in our pocket. It's on our phones. It's everywhere. My kids are using it constantly. And it's everywhere around us. So we understand how to apply it, which is everyone in the company knows how to apply it. It's a very different world where the use cases become much more dispersed and federated versus centralized, which is exciting. And to me, like it does open up the concept of like ecosystems. I agree completely with Tom. It's going to be a world of specialized models where I was in a roundtable last week on AI scarcity and CPUs and GPUs, and it was fascinating. And the concept was, how do we fix this from a governmental point of view? And the answer's got to be specialty models that are very good at doing something, and we all use the same model for that purpose. And the next model does something better. Yeah. But right now, it's a gold rush we're all on.
Well, super exciting. We're on our 10-second countdown, or it's counting up for just a few seconds. So I just wanted to say thank you to the audience. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your engagement. We're right at the end of the day. Thank you to both Gary and Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.